I know, you expected Mbugua, but nah, today's just me. Regardless, I've got a question for you. Are you in the market for a station wagon that's sporty, practical as you can see, but also kind of stylish? Possibly you could go for the Toyota Fielder, maybe even the Golf variant, or for some of you, the Subaru Levorg. Nah, I'm Wemo, this is Conversations, and here's your answer. The 2017 Mazda Atenza station wagon. In 2016, Mazda came out with a new design philosophy known as the Kodo philosophy, spelled as K-O-D-O. This whole philosophy was one in which the designs of the car had to embody a certain set of characteristics. Mostly the designs had to be intelligent, elegant, emotional, and dynamic. The whole purpose of that was that the cars had to have presence. And in my opinion, Mazdas, after 2016, definitely have a certain set of presence, or a sense of presence rather. You cannot confuse a Mazda for any other car. But let's start with the front fascia of this Atenza. It looks fantastic. As much as new Mazdas do look very similar from the front end, this one, stunning. Regardless of how they look stunning. Right here, with the main emblem sat right in the middle of the grille, it looks very pronounced, it's bold, it's shouting at you. Fun fact about the Mazda logo, this logo here is the, how do I call this? It's like the city banner for the city of Hiroshima, where Mazda was founded. But also another fun fact, if you look at the shape of this Mazda logo and you look at the chrome surround of it, they kind of share a similar characteristic. They look very similar and very alike. It's very purposeful and intentional by Mazda. Additionally, you have these vents, or known as fins as the Mazda calls them, which serve as the main air intake of the car. Going downwards, you have your parking sensors right there, as well as this sort of false lip that's been made. It almost looks like a front spoiler, as they say it, but it's not. It's just how Mazda has molded their bumper. Last but not least, you've got these chrome fog light surrounds that just stick out very nicely. Coming up to the headlight assembly, you have your projector beams surrounded by these daytime running lights, which look like crystals in my opinion. They just look very well done. But if you zoom out a little bit and you take a look at how this light assembly has been made, it almost looks like an eye that's staring right into you. Interesting. Now, coming up a bit higher, you have these two sharp lines that swoop from the front of the fascia or the front bumper onto the hood and just dive down. Lovely. They look absolutely fantastic. Then you have these nice broad shoulders by Mazda. They just absolutely flow seamlessly. Going back to the dynamic element of the Kodo philosophy, this car looks like it's in motion even though it's stationary. Coming back to the shoulders, they just swoop seamlessly and effortlessly back and just dip ever so slightly right under this body colored side mirror that also has your indicator lights right there. Additionally, there's this line that just starts right above that swooping line and goes from the front door into the back door and then just vanishes. But before I get too far, let's take a look at these wheels right here. Coming from factory, Mazda is gracious enough to give you 19-inch alloys. Real metal, none of that steel plates with wheel covers, none of that shenanigans over here. Additionally, Mazda suspension is very interesting. You have two different types of suspension in this car. At the front, you have your McPherson struts paired together with anti-roll bars, springs, and gas dampers. At the back of this car, the presence of the McPherson struts is not there, but you do have your gas dampers and your springs. Lovely. Now, coming back to the side profile of this car, you have these roof rails, and last but not least, you have that shark fin antenna. Going back to that sporty aspect of this car, it just looks lovely from the front, from the side. But let's take a look at the back. Flowing back to the back of the car, the back of this car, I'll be very honest, I'm not a big fan of station wagons at all, but personally, this one in particular, I would drive it. There's just something about it. Starting from the roofline of this, the roofline just swoops nicely and it doubles back in itself. It almost looks like a false spoiler, but it's not. Hidden right here, you have your rear brake light. a massive rear windscreen, and additionally you have your Mazda emblem there and a nice bit of chrome trim right there. Mazda sprinkled quite a bit of chrome all over this car. It's very tasteful. It doesn't look tacky or pathetic. You have your badges right there, your rear lights. They look very nice, redesigned by the way from the 2016 generation into this 2017 model year. You have this massive bumper. It looks nice, but then you have this bit of cheap feeling plastic with your parking sensors right there. I'm guessing this is cost cutting as well. I just don't like it. I wish the bumper completely ended all the way to the bottom. You've got your reflectors there, your toe eyes right there, and my goodness, Mercedes, even Mazda is giving us two real exhaust tips, none of that false covering. And that hurts me to say because I'm a Mercedes fan. Let's take a look at the boot. Going back to that whole point on practicality, this boot is extremely spacious. With the second row up, you get about 508 liters worth of space, but with those seats down, you get 1,650 liters of space. That is extremely big. You've got a few tie knobs over here that you can fix whatever you like to fix. Additionally, on this side here, you've got your 12-volt outlet. You also have an under storage bit right here. This car does not come with a spare wheel, not even a space saver, but you have your tire pressure kit. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but it's there. Additionally, you also have a few other goodies like your tow hooks and your tire changing kit. Let's take a look at the interior. So the rear part of this interior cabin is very spacious and a very beautiful and comfortable place to be. I've got loads of legroom right here, a vast amount of headroom. When I'm sat in this all leather interior, it just feels very nice. You've got, again, soft touch materials all over. You've got your ISOFIX clippings right here, so if you have your little minions, you're able to clip them in back here and you know they'll be safe and sound. Additionally, this rear cabin sits comfortably 3 people, but this middle hump right here, it might be a bit of an issue. You have your rear vents right there, but if you want a more premium and executive feel, you can just put down this armrest and you can sit 2 people right there. You've got these cup holders and surprisingly heated seats in the back. Well done, Mazda, well done. Let's go to the front. Continuing into this front part of the cockpit or the interior cabin, it's a very lovely place to be. It's spacious, comfortable, especially when I'm sat in this sporty feeling all leather bucket seats, which by the way are electrically adjustable. The interior of most Mazdas post 2016 are more or less the same, but this one being one of the highest spec models of this particular trim or this car, you get a few minor touches that make this feel ever so premium. You have contrast colored stitching right here with this soft touch material. It looks like leather, but it's not really leather. Your center console is very compact and very minimalistic. There's not too much that's going on over here. You have this 7-inch digital display which is touch sensitive, but it's one of the worst touchscreens I've ever interacted with. More on that later. You have your gear select right here, standard with every Mazda, as well as your screen controls right here. This can help you control your infotainment screen. You have a bit of storage right here with cup holders. That's very massive. Last but not least, in the center console, you have this deep storage bin over here, which gives you your 12-volt access as well as 2 USB cables plugs right there. This steering wheel, it's lovely. I can't lie, it's lovely. It's not thick, it's not chunky, but it feels very nice in my hands. It's quite big. It gives you a very commanding and confident feeling when you're holding it and steering the car down the road. You have your infotainment controls on this side, as well as your driving mode selectors on this side, and just behind them you have your paddle shifters which are mounted to the steering wheel and your steering stalks that stick out just here. They're very small and feel kind of plasticky, but not too bad. Looking through my steering wheel, I have 3 gauge clusters, 2 of them being analog and 1 of them being digital, that provides me information that I need for any other things. Lastly, you have all your driver aid mode selectors on this side, as well as your window controls here, and just very nice feeling door. You have a bit of leather, very well done. I can't lie, I quite like this interior. Now let's look at this infotainment screen over here. Like I mentioned it before, it's very, no, I feel like Mazda's let us down here. Of course, this being one of the first iterations of this particular display, it's not the best. It could do a whole lot better. You have, like, look, The input delay on this is just ridiculous. I click on it and it feels like I'm fighting with the screen for me to be able to select what I want. It's just slow, it's clunky, it's not very pleasing to use. But if need arises, I'm very much able to use this knob right here and scroll through whatever modes I'd like to select, and I find that to be significantly easier than me using this screen. Like, why Mazda? Why? But anyways, enough of that. Let's feel how she drives. The 2017 Mazda Atenza comes with 3 different engine options. You have your 2-liter petrol, the 2.2-liter diesel, and the 2.5-liter petrol, which is the exact one I'm driving right now. The exact configuration of that engine is a 2.5-liter inline 4 naturally aspirated petrol engine. For those of you who might not know, naturally aspirated means that there is no form of forced induction inside the engine. No turbocharger or no supercharger. Mated to that 2.5-liter petrol engine is a 6-speed automatic gearbox. Collectively, the two of them make around 185 horsepower and about 250 newton meters of torque, and the car sends all of its power to the front wheels. This being a naturally aspirated engine means that there is no form of turbo lag whatsoever, so the power delivery under my right foot is just consistent, it's smooth. There's no rough or high peaks and troughs of power delivery. It's just seamless energy that just wants to keep going and going and going. With this being the 2.5-liter petrol engine from Mazda, it's relatively bulletproof. No issues, unlike the diesel variants of Mazda engines, which are known to have very many faults and issues. Oh, as I'm going through this corner, it just feels lovely. The power delivery is smooth. I just keep one constant pressure throughout the pedal and it just seamlessly takes me through the corner. Now, for this particular engine, as long as you keep up with your maintenance, so fluid changes every 5,000 kilometers or so, and major overhaul or major service is done at about 10,000 kilometers or so, everything will be perfectly fine. Like, it's a very well-built engine. This particular one is... Petrol engines from Mazda are very good for in-city driving, unlike the diesel variants. But this one being a 2.5-liter engine means it's relatively on the thirsty side. Your fuel consumption collectively, both for in-city and highway driving, is about 15 kilometers per liter. But that can average out better depending on how heavy your foot is. If you're one who tends to drive very quickly, then obviously your fuel mileage is bound to go down. What a lovely, lovely engine that's in this car. It just feels so good. So good. Consistent, smooth power delivery. Absolutely easy to drive. Now, the driving feel of this car is really, really good. The car feels planted, it feels stable, the suspension is firm, as I mentioned earlier. You have 2 variable sets of suspension, the front and the rear, completely different from one another. Well, not completely, but they're not the same. So the McPherson struts at the front and the gas dampers and anti-roll bars as well. And in the back you have your gas dampers, your springs and everything else. It feels really, really, really good. It's planted, it's stable. When I'm feeding it into the corners, it feels really nice to drive. I know exactly what the car is going to do. There's no surprises. It's one swift motion thanks to this big steering wheel. I don't need to make too many inputs at any one given time. It's such a lovely bit of machinery to drive. Oh my goodness. Now, this car is pretty long, with it being a spacious station wagon. It's about 4,800 millimeters long and 1.5 tons. The suspension is well calibrated and it feels very planted, very firm. It hides its weight really, really well. It doesn't feel as big or as long rather as it looks. Such a well done piece of machinery. And even with all that driving, I don't really have too many complaints. Of course, you have your blind spot right here, but it's not that bad. You can see through the blind spot relatively well. And even looking ahead, I do have a heads-up display right there. This being one of Mazda's, well, not first iterations of head-up display, it's a bit clunky. It's not as good as some of the other competitors in its class, but it gets the job done. I'm not too distracted when driving. I don't have to keep looking down for me to be able to see my speed. I can look right ahead, and it's right here in this little bit of glass right in front of me. Ooh, lovely. So from factory, this car comes with two different variable drive modes. You have your standard mode and your sport mode. In standard mode, the engine is a bit less powerful, and the suspension, although it's not adaptive, it doesn't change much. But mostly the modes just deal in the power delivery that you have in your engine. So in standard mode, your engine power is very balanced. Not too much of a kick from the engine, although this being a 2.5 litre petrol engine, you do have quite a bit of power right under your right foot. But when you put it into sport, it gets a bit rowdy, it gets a bit more active. This car, like I said, it feels fast. But you know what, instead of me saying it feels fast, oh, this is really fun to drive. But instead of me saying it feels fast, let's check the time. Let me find a spot, get the draggy out, and we'll confirm the times. Now that I have Mugwa in the car, we can properly do a speed check, 0 to 100, yeah?
Niko hapa, I'm here.
Exactly. So far, tell me what you feel about this car.
Oh, it's something you don't know. Previously in the channel, always in the channel, when you have a Mazda, I'm the Mazda boy.
Yeah.
I've always been in love with the Mazda, especially the Atenza, but now when the Mazda 6, the previous versions, the ones that had a manual gearbox and stuff, before all this came in. But for me, I'll always go for Mazda if given a chance between a Mazda or a Toyota.
Oof.
Any day, okay, obviously Toyota kuna zenye, obviously I will cheat on that, but Mazda has the styling, the look, the interior, the comfort.
Mazda through and through for you, yeah?
Any day, any time. I think the only way I can just prove them is just we do the 0 to 100.
Right.
0 to 100, see how it performs, to give them more reasons why to get a Mazda.
Well, let's find a spot and test this out.
Okay, so I have my draggy on.
Yeah, let me throw this into
it.
sport mode. We're now in sport mode.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Right, count me in.
In 1, 2, 3, and go.
Oh, you felt that power, yeah?
Torque.
Oh, all 185 straight to the front wheels. Come on, come on.
Okay.
Oh, and those brakes as well. Those brakes.
So 0 to 100, 12 seconds. I think you can do much better.
Really?
Than this, yeah. I feel like again? You're afraid of the brake boost. Just you feel me, hapa. We had a 12, so I think we should redo that again.
Let's do that again.
I feel this car has more power to
okay.
it. Let me reset it, and we can brake boost it. And go. There now, there now you have it.
That traction braking and everything?
There now you have it.
Go on, come on.
Yeah, 11 seconds.
Oh, we shaved off a whole second on that.
So I believe since 11 seconds, I feel we could do better, but Nivile, I don't know.
I feel like also it's a very hot day today.
Yeah, it's a very hot day.
That could definitely play a factor into that.
So 11 seconds, because normally it's rated, if it's a two-wheel, 10 seconds. So I believe it's supposed to be good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ah, lovely. Lovely.
Let me say it like Mama, lovely.
Again, we end where I started, sat in this beautiful boot. Now, looking at this car after all that I've spoken about and comparing it to all the options that I'd mentioned at the beginning of this video, your Subaru Vogue, your Toyota Fielder, or even your Golf variant, this car, it might not be the best at some of the things that it does, but I personally feel like it's an amalgamation of all the best things that some of those other cars have to offer. In terms of practicality, it's very nice, it's very efficient, it's massive. You have this massive boot that's able to fit whatever you could possibly want to fit in the back of this. Again, with the park and chill culture, as you can see, I'm sat very comfortably in this back seat. If you guys are ever going out again, please call me. I'd like to come and test out some of those cars. But on a serious note, It's a very lovely place to be sat in. The interior cabin is very well done, refined. It feels premium compared to some of the other options that I mentioned. But the question still stands. Would I pick this over the others that I mentioned? Yes. Yes, I would.